When we start talking about social media, I've talked to these guys about it. We've been discussing it for the last few weeks and a lot just in the last few days. But I've confided in these guys. I really struggled with what to say about social media. Because I think in a lot of ways, we're addicted in some ways to it and we don't even know it, we don't even understand it. If we could stop and understand the addictive nature of this, especially that we're exposing our children to, and this isn't just a social media thing for kids, it also has to deal with adults. And we'll show you that a little bit more here in a minute. And you might say, well, I don't even have an Instagram account. I don't even have a Facebook account. That's fine. But the whole concept of having a phone and instant access to the world is the same process, whether you call it social media or just whatever you want to call it. It's the same process. If I was to say to you guys this morning that social media is destructive and that you need to stay away from it at all costs, I would lose every teenager in this place. They would just shut me out from that point on. They would pull up their phones and go to their phones because that's more entertaining than the pastor up here talking about social media. It's not addicting and they're not talking to me and they go on. But listen, if I did the same thing with adults and said alcohol, tobacco, or gambling, or whatever, pornography, whatever you want to put in that place, is addicting in the same way, and it's wrong, and it can be destructive for your life, there's lots of you guys that would tune me out from that point. Why? Because one of those things are so a part of your life that you don't want to hear anything else. You want to shut it out. And can I propose to you that there are addictions that we have in our life that we don't even understand that we have. And the things that we resist the most are usually the things that we're addicted to the most or connected to in some way, form, or fashion the most. So I think it's important for all of us to understand that there are similarities in these things. How do I know if I'm addicted to one of these things? Let me just throw some things at you here, and you can answer these rhetorically, okay? You don't have to raise your hand or say yes or no, but you can answer these in your mind. Would you rather be on your phone than talk to someone in person? Do you check out on one-on-one conversations to answer a text or check your social media? Do you have to have your phone with you at all times? Do you check your phone before you get out of bed in the morning? If you answered yes to all of these questions, actually, you're probably addicted to your phone or addicted to something. So what I want to talk about this morning is that I just want to talk about this whole process of not just addictions, not just social media, but the things that we're connected to that are hard for us to pull away from. Over the next couple of weeks, we have some messages and some teachings planned that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the dangers of having things, especially on social media or on our phones, that take us in, that suck us in, and that can be detrimental for our lives. So that's kind of where we're going with this kind of thing. There's a documentary that I watched quite some time ago. I had these guys watch it here recently because they hadn't seen it before. It's called The Social Dilemma. Has anybody seen it? It's a documentary. Have you seen it? Okay. If you haven't seen it, I would suggest that you find it. What platform is it on?
It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. Okay. If you have Netflix, you might be able to find it on YouTube. I'm not completely sure. But it's a documentary that just goes through and tells you about the engineering of social media and how it is detrimental to our society in a lot of ways. It's kind of interesting on this thing, and I'll let you guys give me your opinion on it. It starts out by them asking executives from Instagram, Facebook, these kind of things, sit them down and say, what is the problem with social media? Is it dangerous? And these guys they're like, they don't know where to start. They're like, all of them, there's these long hesitations about where do I start? What's the problem with social media? They just don't know how to start exactly. At the end of the documentary, they bring these same guys out and they say, will you allow your children or your teenagers to be on social media? And every one of them, without hesitation, said no, no. Every one of them, no, 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 no. And these are the guys that put it together and designed it. But they know what went into it. You guys, what was your perspective on that, the social dilemma, that video?
Yeah, totally. So I loved, it has a two kind of narratives running at the same time. So on one side it's a documentary, but on another side it's a narrative that tells a story. And I love how they run parallel to each other. And I very much, I see a small piece of myself within the narrative where you get to see a kid who at first is like, oh yeah, I can put it down for like something happens and his screen breaks and he makes a deal with his mom. And he's like, I can put it down for a week. And if I put it down for a week, you can get me a new screen. And she was like, all right, like deal. And he makes it about 3 or 4 days. And so a plot device in this whole thing is you get an inside look on his social media that is trying to tailor suit it to keep his attention. Because that's what social media does. It's tailor suited to keep your attention. And so you get to see an inside look, and they're like, why isn't he on it? It's been 3 days. This never happens. What's happening here? All right, let's try to go through some certain things that we know pulls his attention. Here's this picture of a girl you like, and why don't you comment on it? Or it says later on when they get desperate, here's your ex is in a new relationship. Why don't you tap and like it or see who it is? And then he goes into this downward spiral of where he cracks and he's like, what? And then he totally goes into a downward spiral where he gets re-addicted to it, and the social media is now trying to pull him into more repeatedly effective methods of keeping their attention. And so he goes down this whole rabbit hole of conspiracy and politics and polarization where he gets pulled into something absolutely crazy by the end of it just because they were trying to keep his attention, so they supplied him with addictive things that usually keep people's attention, and that was polarizing political things. Mm-hmm. And I very much saw myself a piece in that because while I wasn't on Facebook, I wasn't on Instagram, I was looking through these things called memes. Younger audience gets it. They're just funny images, just for a little break from reality. You scroll through it, funny images, blah, blah, blah. Well, these funny images were slowly being tailor-made to keep my attention more and more and longer and longer. And like I said, what has been found to keep people's attention longer are polarizing political things. And I found myself being polarized and pulled in a direction politically. And it wasn't until I had a complete break where I deleted the app and where I did claim myself to be social media clean, I actually came completely clean. And it was like a couple weeks later, I was like, I can't believe I was getting so riled up over such little things that actually affect me. And so I just really saw myself in that. And just the documentary, the interview part, really just stacked it on because they had the facts, they had the people that knew better, and they were just layering on why it's the way it is. So for me, it was powerful.
Jimmy, what was your perspective on it?
So the very beginning, like he was talking about with all the people that were coming in, like all these people were like, I think one of them was the president of Pinterest at a time, or like the CEO of Instagram were all there. And they were just interviewing these people, like Kelly was saying, and they all talked about how bad it was. That got loud. But yeah, so they all kept talking about how bad social media was. And then again, I think I'm just piggybacking off what they say because it's a pretty basic story of how bad it is. But when they really took the deep dive of going into what it looks like at headquarters, and just it would show like this big screen and like a big like AI person, and they were like, all right, we really got to get to him. He hasn't been on his phone in like 30 minutes. What is he doing? So they would just nudge him with like notifications like, hey, your friend just posted for the first time in a while. And then when I heard that, I was like, I do get those notifications on my phone. Like it's like, hey, he hasn't posted in a while. You should go check it out. And I'm like, whatever. Usually I'm like, whatever. But then when I watched this documentary, I really saw that. And I was like, wow, is that actually planned? Like they notice when you're not on it, and they notice your inactivity just as much as they notice your activity on it. And it was big because I was like, Wow, that's crazy. I didn't know how much thought was into social media before I watched it.
Yeah, they know who you are. They've tailor-made what they're doing just specifically for you. And I know a lot of you adults are like, I'm not on social media, so this doesn't apply to me. I thank you guys for not picking up your phones like the teenagers are doing and looking at social media while we're having service. But here's the thing, it's not just a teenage thing. I want you to see this graphic that we have here on the screen, and you can see social media platforms by age groups. You can see the color-coded age groups here. And yes, as you see farther to the right, the older age groups haven't grown up with that. They're not as dependent. But look, the highest age group there is what? 29 or 25 to 29 years old is the highest percentage of people who are on these platforms. And then you can see the different platforms. I found some that also had TikTok on them because I thought TikTok was, but actually TikTok is probably less than even Twitter is as far as the people who are on it. But you can see the age groups of the different people who are on the different platforms. And as you see here, on a lot of these platforms, it's not just young people. They pick up the bulk of it, but it's also adults who are on social media platforms. So this really deals with everybody in all aspects of our life because they know how to pull us in. They know how to get us to the spot that they want us to be at so that they can be able to grab our lives and pull us into that trap. This becomes a huge problem because when we spend too much time on the computer and when we spend too much time, especially with our phones, it affects us. You guys, I want you, again, just to comment before we jump into the scriptures here. How do you think social media, Eli, I'm going to go to you first to talk about students, to talk about teenagers. How do you think social media affects students' lives negatively or positively? How does it affect their lives?
So just as you want me to just do an either or?
Yeah.
Oh man, something that the documentary, I'm gonna do just a tiny explanation, just a tiny one. Something the documentary really went into is they had a very small section where they said there were pluses, where communication was key in certain circumstances and it proved a benefit. But I think by and large, the students that get hooked on this dopamine adventure usually wind up benefiting negatively. And I know benefit's not the word for that, but they usually get negative effects from it, at least from my experience and from what I've seen in the youth. Not just our youth group, as a whole rule of thumb.
So negatively in what way? I mean, will it kill them? I mean, in what way does it hurt them?
I think it could it poses a threat to their mental well-being, which could lead to a threat to their life. I was looking up some statistics, and it says, and this is just adults, so I want you to imagine how much more so the younger audience would be, because it's so easy for you to be like, my kid's 12 and they know a little bit better, but I do not want to be entertaining them 24/7. So here's a phone. We'll give you some time of the day. You can use it, whatever. I don't care. Just please stop running into the room and saying the dumbest things. But it says here, 20%, and this isn't directly. Okay, I actually I'm going to hold on to this for later. Actually, that's a secret weapon. I'll hold on to that later. Okay. But just from what I've seen. My whole statistic thing threw me off. Can you repose your question?
But I'm just saying for the students that you deal with, mm-hmm. for the issues that you're seeing on the things that they deal with, is social media contribute to loneliness, to insecurity? How does it affect those kind of things?
Oh, I wish I could I wish I was far more intelligent in this field. I wish I was, because of what a radical anti-social media person I would call myself. I wish I was more knowledgeable of this, that I could say, oh yeah, here's this, and that. But you can just see the rates of increase of social media usage and the rates of depression increasing in younger audiences, where it's tied to more than just a chemical imbalance in the head where dopamine is required, but it is now They are 24/7 aware of the opinions of everyone around them that is focused on them. Not just opinions about other things, which they are, but opinions on them. Whereas before, the most opinions you had to be worried about was your neighborhood friend group and your 5 or 6 people maybe that you hung out with and played in someone's backyard. But now that backyard has grown to the entire world stage where they are now aware of people across the world and what they think about them. Mm-hmm. Whereas before, that was completely out of the question. Completely. You were not worried about what some dude in London thought about you. You didn't even think about London when you were younger. Maybe visiting it, but never the people in it and what they thought of you. Mm-hmm. So I just think very much there's an easy correlation that could be drawn between the access to the world stage for younger audiences and depression. Mm-hmm. So I just see easily a correlation.
Okay. And maybe that's why our generations are more and more open to globalism and that kind of stuff also. Jimmy, what about for your young adult, your college age and that sort of thing? What do you see the detriments for them?
Pretty similar to youth, because it's like I would say the age difference isn't much. But I know for me and like some of my friends, I know they like regularly quit social media, like all the time, like randomly. They'll be like, I'm going off social media because this is for the best. And for me, I'm probably the opposite of Eli. He's like radical anti-social media, but I am probably all on it. I'm on probably every social media platform. But because I do see some positive things, but there are a lot of negatives because I think people my age, they really struggle with comparison and judgment. I think it really turns into like the video said, there's these people living happy lives, and then you look at yourself and you're like, dang, I'm not happy. Mm-hmm. What am I doing? I must suck, Mm-hmm. And it's hard because I think it's at this age that you're really trying to figure out who you are and what you want to do with your life. And then if you're looking on social media for any gratification, you're seeing all these people being successful that are your age. Mm-hmm. And that really makes a pretty negative mark on your life, because you're like, all my friends are, 20, 21, 22, and they're already having careers. And I'm here still like struggling. And it feels like I'm not moving as far as they are in life. So what's wrong with me? It's this judgment and comparison that I think people my age have because they're not measuring up to what other people put on social media.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you guys, adults, we've dealt with this all of our life through media. Billboards, publications, television, all the movie stars that are on television that show you the great balls that they go to and their vacations and all their happiness. And then it doesn't show, the lady, the actress who runs her car into a house and sets the house on fire just this weekend and is delusional. It doesn't show that. So we're there, but this still sucks us in. Because anything that we put all of our attention and all of our focus on, these things, a lot of these things can be very harmless. And some of you guys may say, this is ridiculous because this stuff is just harmless. And it can be, but anything that you allow to take over your life becomes an addiction to you or abuse. When we talk about alcohol or when we talk about drugs or whatever, we understand that there is a normal use for those things, right? We understand that. We understand that prescriptions and for alcohol, there is a normal use for those. And there may be a use for them that you're okay with and that it doesn't affect your life any way negative, but it's the abnormal use, or they shorten that word to abuse. Abnormal use is shortened to abuse. It's the abuse of those things that causes the problems in our lives. So if we're going to go with this, and I'm not going to warn you of the benefits of social media, okay? I'm not going to warn you of that because I don't think that's a dangerous thing. I want to warn you of the negative and the destructive elements of social media, but not just of social media, of anything that you get abusive with or anything that becomes addictive in your life. That's where we're going to focus on. So I just created and I just put together what I want to call a destruction template, a template of destruction. If you're going to see destruction in your life, you'll use this template to look over it, and we're going to use it in another fashion. But I want to show you these 4 things. Number 1, destruction is always subtle. It always starts easy. It starts simply. It comes at you when you're not even sure about it. You guys remember the story of, you've probably heard it, of the frog they put in the, is it a beaker? Beaker? No, of water. What do they call those? Is that what they call them? A beaker. Okay, it's a beaker of water. Thank you, Jason. Beaker of water. They had a frog and they put him in the beaker of water, and the frog was loving it. It had nice, cool water and it was floating around and having a great time. But what they did is they began to turn up a flame underneath that water and heat it gradually over a long period of time. And the hotter that water became, the frog kept swimming, kind of enjoying the warm water. But what it did, it heated up the frog. Then all of a sudden, the frog just died, turned over, and it was gone. It was expired, the frog was. Because it took it over a small period of time, incrementally. And in the same way, when we are around destructive things, or I can handle this relationship, I can handle this television program, I can handle this website, it's just this time, it's just this time. And before you know it, little by little, that becomes part of your life, and it will actually choke you out and kill you. So it comes subtly. Number two is it's influential. It influences the things that you do. Destruction will speak to your need. It's tailor-made for you. They're not going to tempt you in areas that you're not tempted in. The enemy makes sure of that. But they are looking for things that they know that you have an interest in. And with social media, it's influential. It's going to speak to the need that you have. Number three, it's pleasurable. That's that dopamine thing. It brings you pleasure and satisfaction and puts a smile on your face. When you post out a picture and someone says, "Wow, you're so pretty." I don't usually get that very much. Most of the people say, when it's me and Lisa, they'll say, "Who's the old guy in the picture?" And I'm saying, "It's me," all right? My friends will do that kind of stuff. But when someone comments positively about something that you're doing, it feels good. Or someone texts you that you don't really know that much about, or that they're a cool person, or whatever, it brings that excitement in your life, and you want to get more involved in that. And the fourth thing is that it's expensive. It's expensive. And what I mean by that is that destruction will always cost you more than you're willing to pay, and keep you longer than you're willing to stay. Right? It will destroy your life if you're not careful with that. So let's use this same template, and let's put this over the life of, say, Samson. All right? You guys are familiar with Samson in the Bible, in Judges, the 16th chapter. I'm not going to take time to go through this portion of Scripture and read this, but especially from the 4th verse all the way to the 22nd verse to the end of that section there. It's the story of Samson, and Samson being tempted by who? Delilah. Samson and Delilah, famous couple, right? Samson and Delilah. Samson has this weakness for women. He's never been really good at that. He's got this weakness for women. So Samson has 4 different instances that crop up in his life where Delilah is tempting him and convinces him to give in to what she wants. Samson, is a strong guy. He must be a good-looking guy because he's always got women around him, as you read the story, he always does. And so Samson finds Delilah. He falls in love with her. Now he's at her house, and now Samson is tempted by Delilah because she says, "Listen, tell me the source of your strength. I just want to know, how are you so strong?" So obviously, maybe he wasn't physically strong looking, but there was a strength that was given to him. There was a talent and ability that God had put it within his life. So here Samson is strong, and Delilah saying, "What's the source of your strength?" And he says to her here in verse number 17, "If anyone ties me with 7 fresh," the word here they use is thongs. I'm going to use straps, okay? Can I do that? Does that fit a little bit better? Are you with me now? Okay? I don't want you to go too off the deep end here. And so, again, that's a cultural thing. It means something different from all of us. But if anyone is to tie me with 7 fresh straps that have not been dried, I'll become as weak as any other man. And so he falls asleep, and what does she do? She gets 7 straps that have not been dried and ties him up with it. Then she says, "Samson, Samson, the Philistines are here, help, help." And he wakes up and busts the straps, and basically cleans house. I mean, he basically puts them in their place and, I don't know, kills all of them or whatever he does. And now she comes back and says, Samson, you lied to me. I mean, come on, really, Samson? Are you serious? You lied to me. You said that this was true and it wasn't. I know that never happens to you on social media when some guy says that he is, something and he's really not. Says he's from America and he's not. He's from another country or whatever. But he lied to her. He lied to her. She lied to him, but he lied to her. So now we have this series going on. So this happened 3 other times. Again, with some ropes, same thing happened. Again, with the 7 locks of his hair, and she wove them together in some other fabric. And again, he was telling her this. And finally, it gets down to her just pouting about it and badgering him about it and saying, why won't you tell me you don't love me, blah, blah, blah. And so finally she tells him, or he tells her, and his hair is cut, and then he loses his strength because the Spirit of God has left him. So now I want to take this same template that we used of destruction, and let's talk about that. Was this process with Delilah, was it subtle? Was it subtle? What do you guys think? You guys can answer these. Was it subtle?
So what's the opening line that she uses to first phrase it?
Well, let's see here. Verse number 6. So Delilah said to Samson, tell me the secret of your great strength and how you can be tied up and subdued.
That's not very subtle, but for the case of this, she didn't just come out and say, I'm trying to, get some money by selling you off. I believe, I don't know, it's something that I really loved while I was at ORU College. Not everything that happens is always written down. And I don't know how big of a muscle
There's got to be a story behind that somewhere.
Something.
There's got to be something in there.
Either this is it and Samson's just like a big muscle head and he's never thought once in his life, or there's a lot more than what's going on here. And so if you just came up to me and I don't know, I'm not supernatural in any way, so obviously I don't have an example, but how could I be easily defeated? And you just ask me that out of the blue, I'm gonna be like, why do you need to know? I'm not gonna tell you that
right.
I don't have any weaknesses. I can't think of any.
But we're not in love, and I'm not holding you in my arms either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Other things come into play in this, all right.
Yeah, but I think...
Okay, well then let's just take the subtle out of there, Eli, all right?
Sorry.
Let's not even do that.
I believe
anymore.
there was subtlety. I believe maybe
Help
it just
me
wasn't
out
written
here.
down.
Okay.
I just believe maybe it wasn't written
All right,
down.
we're going to Jimmy next.
Sorry.
I don't think that's any better.
Next, it's influential. It's influential. And what this is speaking to, it's tailor-made for Samson's life. How was this tailor-made for Samson's life?
I mean, you look at the beginning of Samson, it was Samson, he had a problem with women. He always had a woman around him.
It was his weakness.
Yes. So she must have been pretty influential on him because he's ooh, pretty girl, Like Eli was saying meathead. He probably just thought in 2-word sentences, pretty girl, nice, But that's probably all he thought. And I think she had this, she had him wrapped around his finger. He was whipped. It was bad. And I think that just made Samson super weak around her. And then I think near the end of the story, it kind of got toxic. She was just you don't love me anymore. What are you doing? Why are you lying to me? And I think Samson was just oh no, I'm going to lose this girl. So I'm going to tell her now. So I think he was just so weak around her because he loved her.
Okay. The fourth one, it was pleasurable. I'm staying with Jimmy on this one. Third one, it was pleasurable. I don't trust you on this one.
I am my father's son.
Yes, I don't trust you on this one. Number 3, it was pleasurable. And Samson must have been a people pleaser. He must have been a people pleaser. Because, again, it's this dopamine thing. When you do something that brings that pleasure to you, you keep doing it. I mean, after he's been lied to for 3 times, and on the 4th time, he keeps going. I mean, you're just thinking, what is this? Okay, we may say, well, this is different because Samson was a musclehead and it had to do with this. But listen, what is it in your life that you continue to do over and over and over again and you never learn your lesson from it? Mm-hmm. It hurts you. It's destructive. It's embarrassing. It's detrimental to your finances, to your life. But you keep doing it because you think that something is going to be different the next time you do it. And it's not. It's always the same. You know, the humans are one of the only species of animals that do things and get burnt, and 2 or 3 weeks later or a month later or a year later, go back and do the same thing over again and get burnt again and go over. You take a wild animal or something and you throw him in the pen with a bunch of dogs and it gets beat up, it will never get in that pen ever again. But humans, we reason in our heads, well, it's going to be different this time. I'm better, I'm older, I'm wiser. It's not the same person, but it's always the same result. We have to learn from the mistakes that we make. And then the fourth one is it's expensive. It's expensive. Sin will always cost you. And here in this situation, it cost Samson everything he had. Speak to that being expensive for Samson's life. Yep.
Oh, I thought I was still on sabbatical.
No, I'm going to give you one more chance.
Okay. I mean, it's just expensive because, I mean, the exact key word I really like what you said here, cost more than what you're willing to pay. He didn't want to give up his strength. He didn't want to give up his covenant that he had spent his entire life with God that had been promised to his mother from an angel. Imagine that level that's just monumental. And to sacrifice it for the love of a woman who was already kind of on thin ice of being a huge threat to him, or not even thin ice, it was just the ice was broken through. She was a threat to him. And yet here he goes, giving his biggest, I'm mixing up the words again, supplement. There, I was about to say the funny word again that I said earlier. But here he goes, spending his biggest blessing, his biggest covenant, everything that his life revolved around of being a judge. Mm-hmm. And here he goes just spending it on one woman's love that wasn't even that committed to him. Mm-hmm. Talk about expensive.
Mm-hmm. Wow. We don't even want to start going into love and the toxicity of love sometimes and affection. But I think at the end of this section here, and for those of you who are around, you know this is one of my favorite verses in the Bible. When Samson is now been taken, his hair has been cut off. The scripture says up here that the power of God, the Spirit of God has left him. The anointing that he had on his life is gone. The protection that he had is gone. And now they've plucked his eyes out. They've put him on a millstone, and now he's pushing this stone. They're using him as a slave. And I love this scripture because here, verse number 21, if you guys want to look down here at Judges, the 16th chapter, I don't have it on the screen. But it says, then the Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and took him down to Gaza. Binding him with bronze shackles, they set him to grinding in the prison. Listen to this, verse number 22. But the hair on his head began to grow back after it had been shaved. And I know that's like, well, duh. But I think there's way more power in what that statement is. I think that statement is put in there so that we will understand that at our worst place, at our worst spot in life, when we have lost everything, when we are at the bottom, that God already is designing a way for us to come back. He's already preparing a second chance for us. He's allowing us. That's what he did for Samson. Immediately, the hair on his head began to grow back. Listen. His power was not in his hair. Right? But he cut it and it was gone. No. His hair may have been gone, but the scripture says the power of God left him. His hair was a symbol of the commitment that he had made to God. I'm getting off into other stuff, but I feel like preaching on this just a second. His hair was a symbol of the presence of God. When he cut the hair away, he also symbolically said, God, I can do this on my own. I don't need you. I'm strong enough. I've got her. She's not going to control me. And as soon as his hair was cut, the Spirit of God left him. But God provided a way for him to have that power back. And God does that to every one of us. So none of us are in a lost position that we can't ever get away with. But we can't put ourselves into harm's way or our family into harm's way because of the pleasure, because of the subtlety, because of the influence, and because of the expense of sin in our lives. I want to show you two scriptures, and then we're going to kind of wrap this up. 1 John, the 2nd chapter, and the 16th verse. I've got it on the screen. It's from the Passion Translation. And it says this: don't set the affections of your heart on this world or in loving the things of this world. The love of the Father and the love of this world are incompatible. Come on now. You hear that? Love for the Father and the love for the things of this world are incompatible. What are the things of this world? Well, let me explain them to you. For all the world can offer us the gratifications of the flesh, the alluring of the things of the world, and the obsession with status and importance, of likes, can I say that? And friends on your profile, of the positive things that people can tell you that inflate you and make you feel good about yourself. None of these things come from the Father, but from the world. This world and its desires are in the process of passing away, but those who love to do the will of God live forever. So in other words, it's saying all of the stuff out there, all of the I like you, all of the you're beautiful, all of the you're cool, all of the likes, all of the popularity that you can find on social media, on the web, or the gratification you find from websites, or spending time flipping through reels. I don't know why I sit and flip through reels. I just flip through them. I just flip. And hopefully say, oh yeah, that's funny, and then I flip, and then I save them because I want to show them to people. And I can just sit and flip, and then I go, what am I doing? I've got things to do, and I'm sitting here flipping through reels. But all of the things of the world have no benefit to you, and they're contrary to what God wants for your life. Only the things that God has for you. One last scripture that I'm going to share with you, and then we're going to get a couple of practical things. Branson, you can come up and play. If you come up and play, maybe we'll go a little bit faster. There's another scripture that I love in Jonah. After Jonah had been swallowed by the whale, he's in the whale's belly, right? You guys remember the story of Jonah and the whale, right? He's in the whale's belly, and he makes this prayer. Chapter 2 is a prayer that he prays. And there's a line in this prayer that I've never completely understood, but it really stuck out to me as I was praying and preparing for this message. And here's what it says in verse number 8, Jonah 2, verse 8. It says, those who cling to worthless idols forfeit the grace that could be theirs. I've always said, hang on, there's something about that I'm not getting. Those who cling to worthless idols forfeit the grace that could be theirs. What are worthless idols? They're anything in our life that takes the place of God. They're anything in our life that we elevate above God. When we check our Instagram and Facebook before we have devotions and spend time with God in the morning, it becomes an idol to us. I used to say, if you spend more time watching TV than you do reading your Bible, it's an idol. But who doesn't? I mean, a football game, it lasts a long time. You know what I'm saying? And I pray continuously. So maybe I can say that. I don't know if you want to justify it that way. But I'm just saying, anything that you put over God. Have you ever been in devotions and you're reading your Bible and you get halfway through the scripture and you just think, forget this. I'm going to go to social media and look up something that I've been thinking about. Oh, I know you do, because even I've done that. Come on. Y'all are so righteous looking out there. We don't even have any sinners in this place. Good night. But sometimes we put things over God, and that's what this is talking about. Those who cling to worthless idols forfeit the grace, not just salvation, grace is salvation, but the grace for life, the grace for blessing, the grace for anointing. We forfeit the grace that could be ours. But look what Jonah says, but I, with a song of thanksgiving, will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed, I will make good. Salvation comes from God. In other words, Jonah's saying, listen, I'm not going to put my faith in worthless idols. I'm going to put my faith in Jesus Christ. What commitments I make to God, I'm going to commit to those, and I'm going to carry through with them. God is my source, and not social media, not Instagram, not Facebook, not Twitter, not Snapchat, whatever ones are out there. I can't remember them all of a sudden. But God is going to be my source. Each each of us wrote down 4 things that are just practical things that you can do. And I want to leave you with this. I want to give you a list of a few things that you can do that will help you get your focus off of computer and social media and your phone and electronics and get your focus back on God. Just some subtle things that you can do. Number 1 is this, and I've got them here on the screen. Take a break from your phone. Take a break from your phone. Your phone needs a break from you, okay? The world needs a break from you, all right? Take a break from your phone. John Mark Comer is a pastor from Portland. I think he's still pastoring, but he wrote a book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. A fan of Dallas Willard. If you guys have studied Dallas Willard, this is his point. But he just talks about the need to put things down and quit being dependent upon your phones. Second thing is turn off notifications on your phone. Just turn them off, all right? That way you're not being buzzed all times of the day that you got a notification or someone has commented on something or someone's texting you. Just turn those things off. And whenever you get the time, at the end of the day, you can pull up your phone and go through notifications. Go and look at what's up. Don't even turn notifications on so you don't even know. That way you can go to the things that you need to go to and it helps not distract you so much. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb after 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. or whatever. You can do that and have your family, I do this, have your family still be able to give you text. And if it's an emergency, if they call you 3 times in a row, it will ring your phone. But put it on Do Not Disturb so you're not distracted by things at night when you can spend time with your family, with your wife, with your kids. You can spend time with them. And then another thing I would suggest is charge your phone in the other room. Don't charge it by your bedside. If you get an emergency, it'll ring in there and you can hear it. But if not, most of the time you don't need it, and just put it in the other room. That way you're not tempted to do it. Some of you guys have checked me out a long time ago. I can tell. I see it in your eyes. And this last one, spend time with God before you check your phone in the morning. Spend time with God before you check your phone in the morning. That's just 4 subtle things. I'm saying for you adults, this is good things for you. Take a picture of that, memorize those, write those down, put those in your memory. Jimmy, give me your 4. Who's next? Jimmy, give me your 4.
So the first one I put was cleanse your social media. I took time out of my day a couple years ago, and I really went through all my followers and all my friends on all social media, and if they weren't close to me, I pretty much just dropped them. And if they weren't, and I followed some other accounts that weren't friends, and so I would drop those too if they weren't leading me towards Christ. So I really just cleansed my social media because I wasn't getting the positive, any type of positive from it. I was only seeing negative. So that was one way. Another way was, like Kelly said, spend time with God right after you wake up. Don't check your phone. Read your Bible first. I think it should be at the end of the day as well. I think the last thing you should do is also read your Bible. That way you can have a full circle day of beginning your day with the Word and ending your day with the Word.
Good.
And then another way is fasting social media. This is, obviously it's a bigger step than my cleansing of it, but fasting it, just getting rid of all of it for a while. If that's one way that you can really turn away and get closer with God is fasting social media, then do it. That's what you need to do. And I feel like some people will even feel convicted when you hear the word fasting social media. And if you're feeling convicted, maybe it's time you need to do it. And then the last one is, in times of boredom, I feel like it's super easy. When you're bored and you have downtime, you can just open your phone and go to TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or anything you go on and start scrolling. And then that'll pretty much kill your boredom for a minute even. But instead of doing that, you need to just open your Bible. I think it's very pastor to say, but it's something that should happen. It's something that will give you positive effects in life, not just in that moment. This will give you a lasting effect throughout your day, not just the 30 minutes of downtime you have.
Good. Eli.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and go into mine. And in this, you're going to see why I really kind of call myself anti-social media a little bit. And so I kind of accidentally doubled up on something he said. So I'll go ahead and check off that second one. So my first one is a challenge, and I kind of have varying degrees of how much you're willing to go and try. My first one would be, I would actually recommend, as someone who scarcely uses social media, my wife actually does it for us so everyone knows that I'm still alive. She'll post that she's making me food. But
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're good posts, too. I love it.
But I would recommend to you to remove social media. You can text friends, you can text family. I believe, and even myself, I need to be more intentional with contacting family and friends. I need to be far more intentional. Social media is an easy way to do that, but in this avenue of where they're constantly trying to pull your attention, constantly trying to get you to look at something else just to keep your attention on the platform just long enough to just have you for longer for, I want to get into so much about that show, but I'm not gonna. Their goal is to get you to keep staying on that app and to keep your attention. That is their goal. Their goal isn't to make you more connected with your friends and family. That is a byproduct that keeps you in, but their goal is to keep your attention and keep you sucked in. So I would actually recommend to remove social media. And if you can't do that, remove unnecessary social media. I don't think that you need Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, all of these things just because you have different friend groups on each one and you need to be juggling your plates and making sure that you have everything in line. I think you need to pick what's important if you have to pick. I think you need to pick what's important and stick to just that and monitor yourself. Second, just doubling up, I'll make it really fast, regularly fast from social media. Not just once, just to see a glimpse of the light, regularly do it, to catch a good breath of air and see what it's like outside of the rat race of social media. And third is to replace idle time on social media with time in the Bible, praying, and being a healthy community. And what I would actually double up on this, I've had so many conversations with youth and younger people where they have no idea what they like or what they want to do in life. They have you ask them, what do you want to do? I don't know. I've never really thought about that. And that's kind of a thing that's common with younger audiences, is not knowing what you want yet. But here's the thing. Helping a kid discover a passion or a hobby, something that they can chase after, is such a much more fulfilling dopamine giver than just handing them a phone and letting them be subdued for a duration. It is so much better to be involved with your kid's life and helping them chase a new passion or a new interest, because you'll never know what they'll encounter and suddenly find a love for. Where if you just let time pass, they grow into high school students and eventually graduate, and they have no concept of what they want to do. A lot of kids, if you ask them, they want to be YouTubers, they want to be streamers, because that's what they are seeing. Those are their role models. But instead, if you push that to the side and help them chase after interests and new passions, you're gonna see all kinds of creativity explode from them, because you're actually taking the time to show them what the world looks like. And last, for your own self and for your own use, monitor yourself on social media, both your time and your content. Just like what Jimmy said, if you can't cut out social media, cleanse it. If you have content on there that is not crucial to your life and what you need to know, you probably should just cut it, because it's just idle stuff like commercials on a TV show. Who pays to watch commercials? No one does. You don't want to watch commercials. But social media is so sneaky and tricky that they essentially get you to lean in and do that because they're just clever. So those would be my 4 points: time, content, and help your kids, man.
Okay.
When you just surrender them to social media, you're surrendering them to the values and ideas and the morals of this world.
Okay.
So.
All right, you guys, now we leave it with you. Are you going to discount all this and just keep going the way you're going? If that's what you choose to do, then God bless you. But I want to say to you also, take some of these things and apply them to your life, and make sure that the things that I'm just saying, try some of these things and see if they will work for you. And I think that it's going to make a big difference in your life. I'm going to end with the quote. Jim Elliot was a missionary. Many of you guys know Through the Gates of Splendor, the book that was written about his life, and Mark Green did a movie about him even. But Jim Elliot was killed by some Indians in South America when he was down there trying to minister to them. And he had a statement that I'll never forget. And he says this: "He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose." He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. Let's make sure that we have our focus on the right things and not the wrong things. Amen? Bow your heads with me. Lord,